Good afternoon, welcome to RBS. It's really my pleasure, and I'm happy that you all managed to swim through rains of Riga to come here to listen to a presentation coming straight from Silicon Valley. I think we are really honored to have Peter here with us today, and really have him for the last month and a half teach for RBS. A little bit of background. Due to his family educational appointments around the world, Peter has traveled extensively since his childhood and has continued that. Also in his professional career, which is interesting, he's, as opposed to some modern, even Chinese, he speaks Mandarin as mother languages. He had worked in this region in Belarus and Hungary. Now he's in Latvia. And formally, Peter's background is in political sciences, so he knows how to talk. And he has combined that with his current main place where he lives, which is a little bit south of San Francisco, Silicon Valley. So he's speaking about how the startups emerged and helps them to succeed from a perspective of communications, how to use all the tools and tricks of the trade in communications. And so in that capacity, he works with startups like Relax News. He has worked in some of the support projects in Silicon Valley for startups, as well as here in Europe. And so
with that,
he knows he will be wired, so that we can go live for those people who I guess figured out that it's better to watch by the wire. Those people who came in late, there's this preferred seating right down here. There's no excuses. You don't have to leave.
it's okay.
Okay. So without further ado, Peter Young.
Thank you very much.
And we hope to see you around soon for other events we at school are doing with startups and promoting really startup business culture in Latvia and promoting that knowledge. More specifically, you saw those. October 21st, when we celebrate our birthday, there will be an all-day conference about management success stories. And then we are doing, together with providing we are content partners of Digital Freedom Festival, which takes place in November 28. Yes, that's right. Oh, and there will be some other events coming up. So enjoy, use it, and put the all knowledge you gain into a good use. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. And I'm going to go in and out of this, I think. So, welcome. Thank you very much for coming through the Latvian liquid sunshine today. And so I learned a long time ago that if your talk is going to be even a little bit boring, that you have to make sure and bribe everybody. So my friends here are going to be distributing. I brought some San Francisco chocolate for everybody. So the bag is going to be passed around. Take one and pass it on. I think it's always important that you at least go through a talk like this with something sweet in your mouth. So I come to you from Silicon Valley, and Silicon Valley has lots going on. And hopefully today I'm going to embark just a little bit of information for you. But I got a few rules. First rule, please don't be, like quiet. If you've got a question, just throw your hand in the air and let's get them out. Because that's one of the ways I think this whole talk, our discussion, our conversation is going to be successful today. Because I can drown on forever. I'm a teacher. But I definitely want questions from any and maybe everybody. I don't know. I'll stay here as long as you have questions. And so I come to you with actually 3 hats. The first hat is that I'm senior advisor to Relax News, which is a division of Agency France Presse, AFP. You've probably seen the Newswire around, and so I work with their technology division, and I report to the CEO there in a part-time job. I'm also the associate director for the Silicon Valley Big Data and Cybersecurity Center, and there we do research in those areas. So, then I'm a professor of new media technologies at San Jose State University. So that's kind of how I came about. And like I said, I'm going to come in and out on a regular basis. So my little pointer here. So before we go any further, I wanted to give just a nice shout out to our co-sponsors today, because these kinds of things aren't possible without the assistance of other folks kind of in the background. First of all, I want to thank the Riga Business School. They've been actually quite dynamic and helpful. If you're not familiar with RBS, then you should be. You should be enrolling here in some course. But they are at the foundation of what I consider Latvia's emerging economies and so forth. So thank you very much, RBS. In addition, right there in the center, we got the United States Embassy as one of our co-sponsors. I give a shout out to them in large part because one of the foreign policy tenets of the U.S. government here in Latvia is to enhance business-to-business operations between our two countries. There's lots of other politics and so forth, and we know that. But they genuinely want to support small business and startups, very much as a policy thing. So they're very much appreciated here as a co-sponsor. And then, it's already been mentioned, but the Digital Freedom Festival, which is November 28 and 29, Truth in Advertising, I'll do another little advertisement for them at the end. This particular festival is going to be, I think, probably one of the pinnacle points in digital discussion that this region will have for years to come. We plan on having something in the neighborhood of about 1,000 people, maybe more, but there'll be discussions with politicians, yes, government policy discussions, as well as digital fun stuff. And so there'll be everything in between. So I would invite you to come to that. But anyway, thank you for the DFF crew. So I have then just, here's your quiz for the day, all right? I need everybody to read these 5 bullets, and I need you to tell me which 2 are false. So how many think that number 1 is false? Wow. You guys been there? Yeah, Silicon Valley is not paved in gold, all right? Despite what we always like to tell the outside world. How about number 2? Is number 2 true or false? True it is, yes. Silicon Valley receives approximately 30% of all venture capital funding. And what's very interesting here is that we have a number of Latvian startups in the San Francisco Bay Area. So please note that you have some of your countrymen and women in my part of the world. They started here and they moved there, and there's a lot of them who are becoming quite successful. And so one of the things that I've committed to both RPS and the U.S. Embassy is that if somebody from Latvia gives me a call and says, I'm going to start up in Silicon Valley, I'm going to probably help you out just a little bit. Number 3, true or false? True, really unfortunate. It's not cheap in Silicon Valley. A nice 3-bedroom house will be $5,000 to $6,000 a month. And so that's something that we have to kind of live with. How about number 4, true or false? It's false. You get the gold star for the day. It's false because the University of California at Berkeley, you probably heard of Berkeley, Cal Berkeley, and Stanford combined produce fewer engineers in all fields than, yes, you guessed it, San Jose State University, where I'm a professor. When people come to San Jose, when they come to Silicon Valley, and they're looking for engineers, they're looking for operations people, actually, they come to San Jose State to do the recruiting, because we have actually very, very large departments which are well renowned. A full 40% of IBM's research laboratory are San Jose State graduates. So that statement is false. How about number 5? True or false? Excellent answer. All right, everybody passed the quiz. All right, so let's move on. There are kind of, you can read this, but I want to go and address really startups in the environment, not environmental in startups, but startups are full of promise. They really are, and people have great ideas. The problem is that they have lots of risks associated with them. And so anybody thinks that their idea is the best idea and it's going to result in world peace, wrong. It's probably not. But we'll get you at least a piece of world peace. There are a lot of great ideas out there, but some actually should get off the ground and don't, and some that are questionable actually go crazy. And so a lot of times it really is what you're going to do with the other slides that I'm going to give you later on. It's a puzzle. I'm telling you now that startups and the entrepreneurial spirit is one great big puzzle. No one factor is going to determine your success. You can go and grab all the rounds of money that you want, may still fail. You may have the greatest invention in the world, but if you haven't done proper marketing, it could fail. The flip side is if you do everything that I'm going to talk about this afternoon, then you're going to probably be successful. And then finally, kind of the theme of all of this afternoon, the competitive advantage really results in matching your core competencies to opportunities. Don't bite off too much, as we like to say. Okay? Don't go into nuclear physics if your major is art, if your university degree is in art history. All right? You may know how to spell nuclear physics, but that's about it. So let me start with kind of the tenets I want to go through. There are a lot of great ideas. One of the issues that I always like to go back to is Google. You guys have heard of Google? Yeah? Yeah. And so Google, when they started, was simply another search engine. I'm not sure if you really, if you know that part. That's all they were. It was a couple of guys that said, we've got a kind of a unique mathematical formula for doing search, and we should do a search engine. Great. At the time, there was already about 50 search engines out there, and Yahoo was the biggest. All right? What Google did was that they said, we're not going to make any money at search. We're going to make money at advertising. We should tie advertising to search. Wow. And so that's really what happened. Google then started taking off, and a lot of others asked Bing, the Microsoft search engine, and a number of others, Yahoo included, kind of was looking at Google going, they're just the little kids, it's whatever, they're just play toys. And sure enough, within a couple of years, Google was having them for breakfast. All right? So it is timing. And so ideas can be very, very important, but it's how you approach your idea. And I just switched it. There we go. All right. Leaders. In this particular slide, I'm keeping it simple, by the way, because no one likes to read lots of text. Leadership is something that can be trained, but is really part of the persona. I don't care if you're Latvian or American, it makes no difference. A leader stands in front and says, and does, and performs what he or she should be doing to set an example for everybody else. And in startups, it's even more important. When we talk about leadership in startups, you have to make difficult decisions. As I stand here today, I have seen startups fail because the supposed CEO, the leader, would just kind of at the table kind of going, oh, whatever you want, but what are you thinking? And I want to strangle them. Make a decision. And leadership is all about making decisions. So I can tell you from firsthand experience that startups that are successful are going to have strong leaders. There's a flip side to that. And the flip side is that strong leaders can piss people off. Okay? The bastard. Can I say that? Sorry. All right. Thank you. And you have people leave the company going, oh, that guy or that gal is like, oh, Jesus, I can't even stand the person. I always respect the person who can stand in front and say, we are going to do this. I've listened to everybody. I've listened to your arguments, the CFO, the marketing officer. We're going to go in this direction. That's leadership. And while this is not a business class, everybody who's in the entrepreneurial spirit or actually started a startup needs to make sure that this is one of the things that you foster. But you can't do anything without the team. In this particular case, the team is probably one of the harder things to really tackle. Let me explain why. I've had a couple of startups which were put together by engineers, programmers. Somebody came up with a great idea, a great app or something, and they said, no, this is fantastic, we'll put it on iTunes and we'll make $1 million. And I'm going, okay, what's your marketing plan? We don't need one. It's a great app. Anybody want to take a clue on how many apps are on iTunes? Billions. There's just a lot of clutter there. You can put in just about any topic and you're going to come up with at least 15 or 20 similar types of apps. So how do you get through that fog? You get through that fog with your team. And you need to surround yourself, CEOs out there, potential CEOs, you need to surround yourself with, do you need to play with my back? Okay, all right. That's all right. Oh. I'm from San Francisco, I can say that. You done? I'm done. Okay. Testing. Oh, no one. Okay. I'll talk into the microphone, maybe. Surround yourself with people who are not engineers. If you're an engineer, surround your people with somebody who's an English major. If you're going into an English-speaking market, or Latvian, or Russian, right? But surround yourself with people who have specialties that you need to depend on as you go forward. The reason the team becomes important, it's not the beginning, because 3, 4 engineers, programmers can launch any company. It's the growth. We're going to get to growth here in just a moment. But if you want to scale your company, you need to make sure that somebody knows something about marketing. Because if you don't even know how to spell the word, you're in deep trouble. Everybody follow me there? So it becomes real important that the team is something that you go and gravitate towards and pull in. Now, truth in advertising, I've been brought into several startups because the group of programmers, a friend of a friend says, this dude knows a lot about communications, marketing, advertising. Pull him in. So I've gone in and helped get them started. But I've had several startups kind of say, could you stay on? because we like you. That's very flattering. I love it. But sometimes, not sometimes, all the time so far, I've said, nay. And the reason I say that is because I want to make sure that they have an organic team that they've selected and that they grow with. And I'm not going to grow with them, right? I've got a startup that can supply me with the kind of lifestyle I like. Just a little joke. Okay, you guys are tired. Thank you. So, we've got the team. And let's go. Money. Everybody here is going, when's he going to get to the money part? Capital. Startups have, unfortunately in the popular press, have in fact really kind of relied on some of the movies and TV programs that portend startup environments. Always talk about kind of VC, venture capitalists, and big money, and high valuations. I can tell you with the couple of dozen startups I've worked with, every single one of them have started with basically a credit card or a small family loan. That they get family money or they get some friends, a little kind of a small crowdfunding and so forth, to test the idea. The reality is that startups are expensive. Now, you might say, wait a minute, how expensive are they? They're expensive as you begin to grow. Initially, I've had engineers that will go and spend 200-300 hours programming an app. That's their own time, and they, eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and drink Coca-Cola, and they're happy, right? They listen to a little Metallica and kind of bop their head, and that's fine. It's when they come out and say, I've got the app, I have the application. Because that's when the plan falls apart. Okay, how are you going to fund this? It's a great app. That's not what I asked. How are you going to fund it? People will just come. How are you going to fund this? People don't like to ask for money. Or as I like to put it, you have to be really good at begging for money. And when I mean begging for money, you're doing it in a diplomatic way, but you need to be able to stand in front of somebody and say, I really need $5. And I need $5 because I need to get some slushy right down the street. Can you help a brother out? And you know what? 9 times out of 10, I'm fairly successful in getting €5 or $5 out of people. Asking for $5 is no different, or made it very clear, no different than asking for $50,000. I know, I'm getting like, what? There's lots of zeros behind that other number. Yeah, you're right. The process is exactly the same. From the startup world, I need to make sure that I'm speaking to the funding source and I'm telling them my story. You become a storyteller. Every entrepreneur needs to understand from day one, you are a storyteller. And you're going, I thought I left that in first grade. No. Startups that have been successful in raising money have wonderful stories. They're not fabricated, they're not false, but they are able to convey the importance of the project, the importance of the app. They can appeal to the person's sense of ecology, or financial stability, or community. The person who's begging for money needs to do his or her research. I need to make sure that I know just about everything about you because I need $50,000 from you. And you're willing to give $50,000 or $100,000 to a viable startup. But I can tell you, my venture capital friends, and I do some serial investing myself, that they reject about 95% of all the pitches that come in front of them. Because the entrepreneurs, as warm-hearted as they are, as dedicated as they might be, have no idea how to tell a story. People will give money, banks will give money, venture capitalists will give money if your story is compelling. Let me give you an example. I had a colleague who put together an app which did kind of DJ mixing with your existing song database. And he and his partner had a mathematical formula that actually would view, we have seats down here, come on down, you're not going to be, come on down. I don't want you to stand, come on down, come on. At the end of the lecture, you have to clean up, but that's, that's ladies and gentlemen, our janitorial squad. So he had this mathematical formula that would take all of the musical tones from the end of one song and mash them in a mathematical way into the second song. And he said, this should be great. And I said, great for who? And he said, everybody. And I'm going, maybe. I said, but you're not going to get any money. You know, why? And I said, well, because you don't have a story. So we developed a story. I'll give you just a snippet of it. He wanted to go to all sorts. He had a list of venture capital firms in Silicon Valley he wanted to go visit. And I said, nah, you ain't going to any of them. You can't stop me. I said, you're right, but you're going to be thrown out. I said, we need to go select 4 or 5 that are interested in what? Music, first of all. Not everybody's interested in music, and so they're going to throw you right out saying, thank you very much for coming, but we have no interest in music. So that's the first. I said, second, we need to make sure that people have invested. They may be interested in music, but we need to make sure that they've invested in music. Some function of music. Technology, actual musicians, something in between, but a concert promoter. We actually found a concert promoter. He's kind of a serial investor also, and we got $75,000 out of it. But the story that we spun for this gentleman and the other venture capitalists was one of technology meets music meets peaceful musical pleasure. And I know some of you are going, really, Peter? Really? So you may not buy into it, but when people are investing, they want to hear and they're going to fund the things that they're kind of interested in, because you are going to be partners with them for a while. And so this particular concert promoter, serial investor on the side, he listened to this going, show me the app. And so I had discovered like 2 or 3 of the concerts he had been promoting and so forth previously, and we went and got songs from those acts and put them on the tablet, it was an iPad, and I said, all right, you're the mathematician, go for it. And he blended them as the math formula did, and the guy's going, where was the ending, where was the start? Did you like the transition? It was wonderful. There's no kind of immediate stop. And this guy is now in his own environment. By the end of the hour conversation that we had, he wrote a check. Is it always that easy? No. But we had done lots and lots of hours of research prior to even begging for money. Lots and lots of hours. But it paid off. And he's now developing some spin-off apps with that venture capital. Another colleague that I sat on his board, he asked me to sit on his board, he put together an app which would be kind of a bulletin board system for college events. And I thought, okay, interesting. And so we sat down. I said, what's your story? And he said, college students just kind of wander around campus. I said, yeah, I'm at a college, and they do. And bump into each other because they're plenty of come and go. And but there's lots of events. I said, yeah, there's always events. He said, what we want to do is we want to put together this app kind of environment, social media, all the college events are inputted, and people could go sign up just by clicking. And they'd have some kind of unique idea. And I said, this sounds interesting. Because most universities today will assign a new student a student ID number. And I said, I can think of a few colleges that would accept that as a use for your app. And he said, great. He said, and he says, okay, I'm going to come over. He's in Hungary, by the way. He says, I'm going to come over in 2 weeks. I said, cool. We're doing all this by Skype, by the way. Why? This is June. This is the middle of June. Why are you coming in 2 weeks? Well, I want to go talk to colleges. Yeah, okay. So he came over anyway. I tried to talk him out of it. Anybody know why it was really dumb for him to come in the middle of June? Summer vacation. College campuses in the United States are dead. Okay, and I'm guessing they're probably pretty dead in Latvia.
You noticed?
Yeah, I did notice, yeah. Except RBS, we're alive. Is that a good commercial? Okay, good, thank you. All right. Got to get those advertisements in, you know, it's paying the bill. And so the issue for him was he had passion, he had the technology. It was actually a very good platform, really, really crappy timing. And so I said, okay, I'll turn you on to a couple of venture capitalists that I know. I said, but don't expect too much. And to the person, we went to 5 different VCs, angel investors actually. To the person, they said, we got to see it in action. I can't fund something that I can't see. He had no data. He had no dummy data even. And because it was a very interactive application, he couldn't show anything. And all the angel investors said, thank you. And his little company went down. He lost his family money. He put in about $15,000 equivalent, and he lost it. And we talked about that. And he said, I don't know what to do. And I said, pick yourself up, find a little extra money, and go make a new app. Because the technology you have is actually pretty cool, just really crappy timing, and you didn't have the story all down because of circumstances. So he's now in the process of putting together another app, and I'm supposed to talk to him in about a month. So I hope the very best for him. But it is important that capital not be viewed as something that just kind of is thrown about. On capital, it is important also to add that there are going to be several rounds. You're going to have angel investors. Family usually comes first. Then you have angel investors, which are going to go from $10,000 US to $50,000 US, probably with a cap of about 125,000, 150,000 for that round. Venture capitalists then will come after that. Venture capitalists tend to put in $500,000 to $2 million their first round. And before everybody gets excited going, oh, cool, I'm going to go for the $2 million round. That's only happening about 10% of the time, about 10% of the pitches. Okay? We hear lots of stories. We read them in the press and so forth. This company got so much money, this company got so much money. We hear about the Ubers. We hear about Snapchats, etc. And those are that percentage, okay, of the total number of pitches that are out there. I know several startups which are actually doing fairly well, and their gross margins are about 10%, and they're paying all their bills. They have no venture capital because venture capital is going, you're too small and the growth curve for you is not really there. So they decided we're going to go it on our own and we're just going to reinvest everything that we pull in revenue-wise, we'll just reinvest it. And so that becomes ego. That becomes something you need to check your ego. Because I've also had a couple of startups I've walked away from, where the CEO, the head person, trying to be a leader, says, yes, we're going to grow so big that Facebook is going to buy us. And I looked at this guy and I said, do you know how many people have told me that Facebook is going to buy them? I said, I don't have enough fingers or toes on my hands or body on how many people say that Google or Facebook are going to buy them. They go through the same process for evaluating mergers and acquisitions, and they reject 95, 98% of the people that come to them. Question? No, just keeping your eyelid because you're falling asleep. Okay, good. All right. So before I go forward, I want to stop just real quick. Questions? Have I generated anything? Yes, sir.
A quick comment about the compelling story.
Please.
You mentioned quite rightly that you should know who you're talking to, because a large component of that compelling story is to have an emotional connection with the audience.
Yes. Yes. Everybody hear that?
Yeah.
Emotion is real important.
Yeah, and it's not the content or the facts, the data that you're throwing at them, but that connection, which is really more important.
The concert promoter was turned on because music was his life. He wrote the check because music was his life, and this is a technology maybe I could leverage for more of my activities. And it's worked. It's worked so far. Any other questions? Yes? Oh. Because we're live, worldwide.
Thanks, Peter. Two questions, really. I think one, if looking for capital, they want to see users. And I think Google had a lot of balls to monetize so early, but what's your suggestion in terms of at what point you should go looking for the money? Because obviously to get users, they're probably a bit hesitant to pay for things at go. And in many ways, you want to get users by getting people using it for nothing, and then actually once you create the value, you then monetize. Have you got any tips on that point?
I learned from a very wise man, Gerald in North Carolina. He hired me as his marketing manager for a software company. And it was a CAD program, computer-aided drafting and design. Not very romantic, but real expensive, as I discovered. And I said, okay, so how much is the product? He said, $799. I said, okay. I said, you ever going to lower the price? Because the cost of his product actually lowered each year because he's already done the bulk of the coding. He said, nope, never going to lower the price. And I thought, that's a little weird. Okay. And I said, why not? He says, because you can never go above that price. You can only go down. So his philosophy from the very beginning was to charge $799 for the package, but give in the beginning to schools, each student could get it for $10. It had an advertised price of $799. How are people feeling? How are the students feeling? I'm a student. I got over it. This is cool. What he found is that businesses didn't balk at $799. If they could take advantage of a particular discount at some point, great. If they couldn't, they always knew it was never going to go above $799. So what I'm finding in terms of acquisition of customers and pricing, that is the revenue stream and so forth, is that those companies, apps or applications, web-based, those companies that actually put a price on their service, but for some period of time to be determined later, it's free if you send us some beta testing reports. And I'm seeing more of that. And they announce, listen, you know, December 1st, it's going to go up to $15 a month. Those companies that have established the price right in the front, if people like it, are they going to pay 15 bucks a month or whatever it is? They are. Because the company has set expectations right up front. And we do the math. Oh, okay, December 1st, it's like, okay, August. So August, September, October, November, okay, 4 months free. That means that for the next year, my price is actually going to be, doing the math here, you know, like $6 a month. Yeah, I can pay 15 bucks a month starting in December. This is a pretty cool product. Those companies that start free and then later on say, up it on a price because now they've got some popularity at the free level, find that their user acquisition stalls, doesn't go anywhere. Even if it's just the most wonderful product in the world. And they have to do lots and lots of magic and convincing people to actually do their thing. And that's a problem. So I always like to set expectations right in the beginning and give them a nice big discount or free in the beginning, telling them in the future the price, the regular price is going to be $15 a month. Now, what happens November 15th? I send an email out to all those beta users going, hey, December 1st, we're going to go up $15 a month, but you know what? You're my friend. And if you sign up now for a 1-year contract, we give it to you for $9. Okay, how can I resist that? So there's ways you can play with it, but the expectation is always there that it's going to be some price point at some date, and those companies that create expectations for pricing, revenue, if you will, actually accomplish it. You have a second question?
Yeah, that's really useful feedback. Thank you. Second one really is about telling your story. How much do you focus on, let's say, how you got to where you are now, or how much do you alternatively, how much do you focus on the problem that you're solving?
Yes. Good answer, how much history and how much future? Right? Boil it down. For everybody here, listen to my words very carefully. Okay, you ready? No one cares about your history. You were born in a log cabin. You walked uphill both directions to school. You ate dirt because your family was so poor. But I'm here today with a wonderful app. All the VCs here are blah, 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 new app. Because they've tuned you out. So your story needs to be, the compelling part needs to be solution-oriented. You need to be able to tell people what you've created, why you created it, and what it's going to do for them. What solution? Because if you don't give them a solution, they're not going to be interested in ponying up some money. Yeah? Other questions? You good for the moment? All right.
I have a question.
Please, go ahead.
Do you have like a strategy for content for the pitch that you have created when you're going for asking an investment?
Yes, I do. And we can talk later. My fee is $100 an hour. Say that?
Setting expectations.
Setting expectations, that's right. Yeah, we can. I could go in and do a whole class just on content needed for a particular pitch, story. We don't have enough time here. And the candy ran out, I think, so, you know, problems there. But we can talk offline, okay? And by the way, I have a slide at the end where, yes, I know, I believe in privacy, but I'm giving you my email address, my Skype address, and my mobile phone back in Silicon Valley if you have other questions. So, let's talk about the plan. No startup is going to be successful without some sort of annualized plan, period. If you don't know what you're going to do 6 months from now, from an operational point of view, you're not going to be successful. Because you're going to come up on 6 months, or whatever the time period is, and people are going to go, okay, what do we do now? I don't know. We'll do something new. What are we going to do new? Well, let's have a brainstorming session. No, we're not going to have a brainstorming session. We're going to put it out on paper. It may change. Make it real clear. Plans are built to be changed over time. But if you put down what you're going to do in month 6 and month 7 and month 11 and month 12, then everybody that is in view of that plan is going to say, oh, we need to be like shooting for blah. If we change it, then we let everybody know that it's been changed, and the calendar, if you will, the plan, is then republished. Never think that it's like, as we say in English, cast in concrete. It's not permanent. Its plans evolve. But one of the successes that's always pointed to with Google is that Google and their search engine, not innovative, but their plan, they had planned out 2 years from the point where they started. Those folks essentially knew what they wanted to get accomplished 2 years from that point. They've made lots and lots of changes. We have Android phones. Oh, I get to use this now? Ah. The live streaming folks are going, what is he saying? Silicon Valley sign language. Anyway, hi online, I'm back. And so you need to make sure that that plan goes out for a longer period of time and that everybody knows about that plan. Execution. I'm going to actually relate back to the slide that said team. You need to be able to tell that person you hired for marketing that you need to execute this particular marketing plan over this period of time with this budget, and please don't come whining back to me. If you've brought on a good team, you've set expectations, you've talked about everything, you're transparent as a leader, then the execution is going to be fairly seamless. But what I find in entrepreneurs is the following. I got a great idea. And I did some preliminary programming. Look at this app. Isn't it pretty? And we're going to do some really cool things. When are you going to go fill out all the paperwork required to get it on the iTunes App Store? Well, that's coming. When? Soon. And I hear that more and more with people who do not understand execution is doing. You have decided to come here today. Thank you very much, by the way. So you have executed the plan. The plan was to come here. You're sitting in the chair, you executed that plan. What you put on paper needs to be done. And if it's not done, there needs to be a reason why you don't do it. And you need to have some kind of substitute. So in terms of startups, again, I want to go back to capital funding. People want to know how you're going to execute. When are you going to do it? How long is it going to last? What kind of money are you going to spend? I just need to know these things. Are they being mean? No. In fact, I would more equate venture capitalists with your mother. Right? What does your mother do? Where'd you go? You're a little late, aren't you? Dinner's on the table already. Did you brush your teeth? Go wash your hands. That's your mother. Mothers are beautiful people. I love mothers. I love my mother. I get tired of my mother being a mother. Venture capitalists are a lot like mothers. Some of them will disagree with me. but they just want to know. They want to know that their investment is good, and they're real concerned about the execution. Because execution, along with execution, comes money. You can't do something without spending some amount of money. And so VCs, angel investors, or your family crowdfunding, actually you're spending their money. All right? Timing. I go back to Google. Their timing was it was absolutely perfect. But probably the best case study that's out there is YouTube. Now, YouTube actually, the operational headquarters of YouTube is about 6 kilometers from my house, over in San Bruno. And today it's huge, still in the same place. Now they occupy a few more buildings. But the people who started YouTube said, we want to be able to really kind of push video. And we need to make sure that it's kind of secure and that we've got enough storage. Storage was the big thing. That's why they kind of started. They said a lot of people have video, takes up a lot of room, and maybe we can provide kind of an offline place for them to store their video. The other thing that was happening right at that time in around the world, in to a great extent, but especially in Silicon Valley, was that they are rolling out ADSL, and in some specific areas, they were rolling out fiber optics. Well, if you want to do video, you got to have DSL at least. You're pumping a lot of ones and zeros through that little line, and you can't do it with a modem. Some of you young ones are going. That's the thing that went really slow like this. And you did a lot of text, and that's about it. Or really ugly, simple pictures. But no photos and no video. So timing for YouTube was absolutely perfect. And so when Google started finding that they were accumulating lots of money, they kind of looked over to San Bruno and said, hey, YouTube, we like you. And YouTube was right at the top of the video world. They still are. But they needed, as the story goes, they needed about $20 million to build out their server farm. Their compelling story was, we do a really good job of video storage. We have a very genuine interest for people who want to view video on demand. We need money for the technical aspects of our data center. And Google said, cool, can we just buy you? And they did. All right? They didn't give them $20 million, they gave them, I don't know, $1.5 billion. God knows I really wanted to be a part of that company. Wow, I wouldn't be talking to you today. Well, I would by satellite. So timing is very, very important. The other part of timing is that I have startups that will go, yeah, actually we have a cycle of about 3 or 4 apps that we really want to put out kind of all at the same time. I'm going, no, nay, no, don't do that. Can anybody tell me why you don't want to put out, if you've got 4 really cool apps all at the same time? Nobody? It's working. Okay, let me give you the answer. Because the sales cycle, this Business 101, the sales cycle for each one of those apps will eat each other. And your overall sales will be something in the neighborhood of about 110 to 115% for all 4 of what you could get by timing issues. And so when I told this one particular startup that had a whole basket of apps, and they're all pretty good, I said, put 1 out each month. Pop it up, get the stories out there, get the press, put out the communications, put out the marketing, and in a month, put out your second app. And so here's what happened. Sales of the first app did pretty well. The company now got to point back to their first app when they put the second app out and said, new and improved. We got something that's a wonderful supplement to what's already been out. You people like it already. understand the communications process here. And they did that over 4 months, and their sales were just about 600% of what it would have been had they put them all at the same time.
Is it the same app?
No, they had, it was, one was a Japanese version of the same app, and then they had 2 other apps. So the Japanese market doesn't want the English version, and I said, go ahead and perfect it, then we'll take it to Japan. Right? So the Japanese market is not competing with the English version here. Crisis response. I don't know about you, but I've had a couple of fender benders in my car over the years. I broke my leg once. I played water polo and caught the ball with my nose on a regular basis. Each one of those is a mini crisis. Each one of those had to be dealt with. And startups need to make sure that they have a plan to deal with crisis. Now, I'm not talking earthquakes, though we have a lot of them in California. I'm talking about a bug in a piece of software, where all of a sudden you get, overnight, you get 15 emails from users that say, your app doesn't work at all anymore. I can't send it to the printer, blah, 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 whatever it is. You have to be prepared to deal with that crisis instantly. And I mean, by the way, instantly. It may be a quick email back to all those customers going, yes, we know about it. You didn't know about it, but you say you did. Yes, we know about it, and we should have it fixed in the next few hours. Please bear with us. That's part of the crisis response. But startups traditionally have not done a good job with crisis management. And so, that's my little dinghy, Bob. Oh, thank you. And so that becomes a real problem for many startups, is that they don't know how to deal with crisis when it happens. And I can guarantee you, in the high-tech world, regardless of what area you're in, it could be apps, it could be Internet of Things, it could be auto-related stuff. Trust me, I don't want to buy a driverless car quite yet, okay? Google still is having problems. Yeah, they're crashing. You're supposed to go left. Sorry. Okay? Marketing, I won't spend a lot of time. Yes, please, go ahead. Oh, wait. Online people, hold on just a second.
Just want to emphasize your last point about crisis, timing it together with the communication with the VCs. I've been on the other side, I've been on the capital side.
Yes?
And the thing that differentiates the men from the boys is in a crisis, in a bad situation, if the company people can tell the bad news to the venture capitalist first before the good news. All of the companies we've invested in where they've tried to hide the bad news have disappeared.
Yep, all of them.
And so, bad news first.
Everybody got that? Just be upfront. I know when you did something wrong, you didn't want to go in the house immediately and say, Dad, I wrecked the car. I waited for a while. I got that part. But in this business world, in this startup world, people are given money, they just want to know. Because they've seen other crises, right? They've seen them before. Okay, what did you do? May I suggest you also do blah, blah, blah. You've got experts. VCs, successful VCs are very, very intelligent and knowledgeable in the area of startups because they fund them. Some of them go south and some of them make money. So marketing. I won't make this a marketing class, but I can tell you as I stand here that marketing needs to be focused not on the product per se, but on the solution. You need to be able to tell people in your marketing piece, whatever it might be, an online ad, a flyer, a demonstration at a conference, you need to give them a solution. You need to tell them what your app is going to solve. As opposed to saying, this is so small, it's 187 kilobits big and it can react to you. I don't really care how big or small it is. What's it do for me? It gives you real-time weather by the 15-minute mark. Cool. Airline pilots would probably love to have this app. That's the solution. The app will sell itself if your marketing focuses on solutions. If your communications with the outside world focuses on the solution or plural solutions. Yeah? And I lost my little thingy bob here. Growth. Growth is a killer. It's a killer. And it's a killer because nobody knows how to grow. Remember I told you about begging for money? Begging for money is easy compared to dealing with growth. Everybody says, yes, we want to grow at 25% a quarter or 25% a month. Great, wonderful. How are you going to accomplish that? Do you have customer support? Have you hired for customer support? Why do I need to do that? Because if you have 100 people, users right now, and you want to go to 10,000 users, you guys have been in a situation. You call up a small little app company and going, hey, I just wanted to let you know that this thing doesn't work and I was just curious, do you have a solution? And you're waiting on the phone. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to have that company hasn't hired up for customer support. People will go and ask, because they really like your product, but could you just add this one little button over here? Right? Consumers and businesses want all sorts of new features. Yeah, oh, this would be really cool if. And if you're smart, you take notes and go, oh, thank you very much, we'll talk to you. If you don't have a growth plan, you're not going to be able to put in that little blue button. Because you don't have the programming power in your company to do that. So let me go back just a minute about team. The churn rate. The churn rate is the rate where you acquire somebody and you lose them. And the churn rate is usually over a quarter or over a year. In the high-tech world, the churn rate is usually over a year. It depends on who you talk to. A good startup who is on a nice growth curve, if they don't hire appropriately and they hire regularly, the growth curve will halt, and in a year, you're going to lose some of your talent. And you're going to lose some of your talent because I can tell you right now that in my email that I got today, I get a service called Kids List for Silicon Valley jobs. And just today, there are 55 programmer jobs available paying an average of $90,000 to $95,000. If you're a programmer and you know anything about any of the programs, C, C++, C Sharp, Ruby on Rails, etc., you're kind of looking around going, this is cool right here, I really like everybody, I'm going to miss you, but I can still come over to the apartment and eat pizza, but I'm going to go to this other company because they're going to give me $10,000 more. It's not always about money. It's about workload. It's about life balance. And so when we talk about growth, you've got to consider your personnel on a regular basis. And if you don't, your churn rate is going to be as much as 50% of your employees. That's real expensive. I promised everybody I'd do a little advertising. And so I'm going to do a little advertising. We talked a lot about startups, and we talked about the tenets of making you competitive. One of the things for Latvia, I've got to tell you that, let me step back just for a moment. I lived in Belarus for a year. I've worked in Russia, Ukraine, Moldova, and then I got the offer to come here to Latvia. And when I got the offer to come to Latvia, I kind of said, okay, you know, probably it's right next to Belarus. I like Belarus. And I came, you know, thinking, I had a pretty good time in Belarus. I'll come here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you now, as a foreign person, you guys got it good. You need to be proud of your country. I believe you are. This is a groovy place. Oh my God. If I was never in Belarus, I would think the world of this place. But on compare and contrast, this is amazing. So I love Latvia. I love it a lot. And somebody asked me the other day, could you come back here and live? Yes, in a heartbeat. Yes, I could. So for all the bitching and complaining you might do on a regular basis, oh, the rain, it's back again. You have a really cool place here. The people are wonderful, the food is good, the country is wonderful, the scenery is gorgeous. I could just adopt you. I could take you all back home. I really could, okay? My house isn't that big, but I try to make it. So one of the things that I teamed up with while I was here, Riga Business School asked me if I would help with a group of people that were putting together a conference that really dealt with the kinds of things that I talked about today and a whole bunch of other stuff. Lifestyle, politics, and everything in between. And so the Digital Freedom, the Digital Freedom Festival, 28-29 November, is going to be, I think, probably a shining moment for especially Latvia in terms of getting the word out on how great you are and how kind of entrepreneurial you are also. Some of you may kind of going, really? Is he in the same country? But it's true. Way down deep inside of each one of you, I get a real sense that the entrepreneurial spirit is there, and this conference is going to be absolutely fabulous to go and attend. I own no stock in the company, and I don't get a salary at all, so this advertisement is free for the DFF. But it's going to be an event that if you're genuinely interested in the digital lifestyle here in our little corner of the world up here, that is going to be the place to go. So, into commercial. I want to thank everybody. You know, I know we have some liquid sunshine, keeping a few of our brothers and sisters away, but hopefully they're online. Hi. I have a microphone now. So I just want to thank everybody, and again tell you that I've had nothing but fun, both today, in the immediate sense, but in Latvia. So I want to thank you as citizens of Latvia also. This is my stuff. I'll leave it up for you after I put down this microphone. But if you have further questions, if you have comments, I don't know any Latvian, so please use Google Translator to put it in English. But I'd be happy to carry on a conversation with you if you would like to have one. I hope to come back someday soon. Thank you. Oh, Jesus, okay, all right. See, it's fine. So, that's my emotional tear-jerking speech. What questions do we have? Yes, please.
Quick question.
Yeah?
Your experience outside of software investments.
So, predominantly, just to let everybody know, predominantly hardware and software. But I did, actually, I was a serial investor, one of the early investors in a nano-based mop. And nanotechnology, one of the latest kind of engineered developments. And it's actually
Really tiny box.
really tiny mops, that's right. But that was to use for aircraft, and they're still in the development stage. So I put some money into that. And I've also put some money into and advised a company that is actually kind of interesting, pepperoni rolls. So food, and a friend of mine said, we have a secret recipe. I'm going, you don't look like Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken, sorry. But they have, I tried the pepperoni. I said, I'm not putting any money into it unless I get to taste it. And he said, okay. So he sent me like a chunk, and it was wonderful, oh my God. So I put money into that, and I'm advising them actually right now. And food is definitely a whole different area. So, but all the tenants I talked about today go for pepperoni rolls or apps. There's really no difference. They had to beg for money, they had to put together a team, they had to have a marketing plan, general plan, etc. So I've done some of that. And take her in. Other questions? Wow. I answered everybody's questions? Ah, there we go. Okay. Hi.
I want to ask you a question. For companies, startup companies who put out maybe some venture capital or who may pass this kind of bridge,
Yep.
do you have any advice? Because it's might be quite difficult for them as well to go there, and there will be downfalls. So do you have any advice how to?
Yeah. So let me twist your question around just a little bit. Basically, you've been successful up through the really beginning parts, right? Is that what I'm hearing? You're making a little bit of money. You've hired a few people. You want to hire a few people. And you kind of hit a plateau, not sure what to do. My answer is really two-part. Number one, you may need some more money to get over that kind of business hump. Pushing money aside, I'd be the first person to ask, what do you want to do in a year? If I don't hear an answer, if you're telling me about your current problems, I don't want to give you money, I don't need to give you any advice, because you're thinking today. I need you to think tomorrow. So that's the first piece of advice that I would give. Always think about tomorrow. You have to be, the reality is today, I understand that part, but you need to think about it. The second part is that you need to plan for growth. And I put a slide up here on growth, and you need to plan for growth. And so I might come in and say, it looks like you're growing at 3% a month, maybe over 3 months with initial revenue. And I would go conservative and say, okay, so are you comfortable with growing your company maybe at 5 or 6%, which would mean ultimately you're going to grow by over 50% by the end of that year, first year. A lot of people are going, I don't know. If you're not thinking about the future, you're not going to be able to answer my question. Now, one of the things I have heard from people who love to give advice at $100 an hour, and I'm getting $0 an hour for this, right, Giannis? Am I getting any money for this? No? Damn it. Is that I've seen people who, in consultancies and so forth, and this is unfair, going, oh yeah, you know what, I think you have the potential of growing at 20% a month. That's ill advice. And you've got to be real about what you can do. And by the way, do you actually have a social life now? So-so, okay? So she has a so-so social life, and I can tell you if I'm the $100 an hour consultant just trying to get your money, I'm going to say, oh yeah, your social life is going to be a lot better, you're going to grow at 20%. I'll be around all day. My reaction is going to be, oh, so you don't have a social life, and let's be real, and let's put together a plan that you can live with. Everybody follow me there? It's life, business, balance. If you don't balance the two, in 6 months, you're not going to be worth very much to anybody, your family or your business. Okay? Other questions?
Do we have some more job? That wasn't my question. No, my question was we had this speaker last year, and he had some serious business here in Latvia, and he tried to get money from London and from Silicon Valley as well. And he said that his problem was that those guys don't really give money to tourists. And is it true that unless you don't live there, or your company's headquarters is not in London or in Silicon Valley, it's really hard to get some serious money?
That's a good question, actually, and that's going to be one of the biases that people are going to find, all right? So the short answer is there is bias. There is location bias. And I can't tell you how many times before I came here, I had to explain where Latvia was. And finally I got to the point where most of my friends are brilliant, they're wonderful, I love them, but they're geographical idiots. And I go, Poland? Oh yeah, Poland, oh yeah, okay. It's like near there. Oh, okay, cool, I got it. So you're going to be running into people who, A, don't really know about this corner of the earth. I'm serious when I say that. One of the reasons that I think I like the Digital Freedom Foundation Festival so much is this is going to be a showcase for a whole bunch of people from London and Berlin and Munich and Paris, maybe even some folks from the United States, to come here and see not how beautiful Riga is, but to also see the spirit and so forth. So that's going to be important, is that relationship that's built. But let me give you a reality check here. One of the things that I told my friend who was doing the musical app that I described earlier, I said, dude, you need to get over here. You're not going to get any money over in Central Europe. And he's going, yeah, I can't find any money. Because people, I'm telling you now, there are still people who believe that there's a Soviet Union. And I'm seeing kind of, no, we left that a long time ago. But there's a lot of folks that still think that. Not good or bad, but they just haven't kept up with the reading of a newspaper. And so these are little countries. Why do I want to invest in a little country? And that's why the storytelling becomes important. That's why you need to go beyond just Latvia's 2+ or 2- million people, but you need to make sure that the story is compelling and that you're telling a solution. So the people in London are going to spend most of their money in those first world countries in Western Europe. I'm going to tell you now, that's the reality. But there are enough people now that I've talked to, especially in the London, Berlin, Munich, and Paris operations of some of my venture capital friends, that kind of go, oh, cool, yeah. And there's money to be made here. That's the other part. If there's money to be made, you're going to find people that will come beat a path to your door. When I told my colleague from Hungary, you need to come over. You need to come over. You can stay at my house. Literally, I had him stay at my house. And I said, you know, the buses are going to take you here, here, and here. Bless you. And I said, you need to start looking, seeing, and so forth. As I said earlier, Silicon Valley receives 30% of all venture capital funds in the world. And it's going to continue like that. Percentage-wise, it's going to continue like that. And so if you want some real live money, you're probably going to have to come. Now, one of the efforts, and I've talked to my colleagues about this offline, is that Estonia actually has a Silicon Valley office. It's my understanding. It's a small little thing, but they do a lot of coordination for Estonia startups. Latvia does not. So Latvia needs, my recommendation has always been, and now will always be, that Latvia needs at least a representative, some sort of small office to make sure and take care of Latvian startups. Because that's where you're funding the bigger money. That's the reality. But you tell people your story, you tell people your solutions, you're going to get some people interested and actually come here. Thank you. Yes?
Did your Hungarian colleague actually relocate? Has he gone to live there now?
No, he stayed with me for about 6 weeks. I didn't see him much because he met some other Hungarians and they hung out and partied. But he's now back in Hungary and doing his thing. But he's coming back. He's going to come back. I think the beginning of November for a couple of weeks. So as I said, that's why that slide and everybody passed the test. Houses and apartments are expensive, so but having a Latvian office in Silicon Valley is going to be important in time. Other questions? We're good? You guys have been a wonderful audience. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very, very much.
I was wrong when I said that you won't get the money. Because of the surprise. So, since it was officially announced that Latvia has the longest women in the world, and Latvia has the fourth most expensive currency in the world after about 3 years ago when we joined the euro, that has been merged into a coin like this. And if you visit kind of Latvian community events, you would see a lot of ladies wearing this coin from 30s as a necklace and stuff like that. They thought, oh, that would be a nice souvenir for Peter. So they buy from here. I think you can technically exchange this. This is a usable currency which Latvian bank will exchange for you. It's a 5 lats. So it was about $10.
Can I put a necklace on it? And then does it act like a magnet? Oh, hi.
I don't know. You can test it out. Okay, thank you so much. And I know everybody knows.